Today, we're going to talk about something really powerful. It's the story of a city whose vibrant life was just washed away in a single morning. We're diving into the catastrophic 2009 flood in Kurnool. And yeah, it's a story of immense loss, but you'll see, it's also about incredible human resilience.
Before we can really get a handle on the scale of this tragedy, I think we need to understand what was lost. So let's paint a picture. This was Kurnool. Every single morning was just this explosion of color and life. The sounds of commerce, the familiar rhythm of a busy city just waking up. But then, one morning, all of that was just gone. That routine was completely shattered. Those familiar, beautiful colors violently washed away, and they were replaced by something terrifying, something nobody saw coming.
So to put this in context, Kurnool is in Andhra Pradesh, and it's home to about 500,000 people. It was known as the City of Rocky Temples, a place that gave a really warm welcome to thousands of tourists. It was a place, really defined by its history, its culture, and its community.
All right, so the story of how this all went down begins on September 27, 2009. It was one of those days. Cold, damp, cloudy, with really heavy rain. People headed home early, just hoping for a brighter morning. But the rain, it never stopped. It just kept pouring all night long.
That bright morning everyone was hoping for? Yeah, it never came. Instead, on September 28th, they woke up to this terrifying roar, the sound of the river flooding their streets, just shattering their homes. The vibrant colors of the city were gone, replaced by the gloomy, muddy colors of the flood.
And by 10 in the morning, things got official. An official warning came through that made the scale of this crisis terrifyingly clear. The Central Water Commission issued a forecast, and it was unlike anything they had ever seen. It signaled that this unprecedented amount of water was just surging through the Krishna River basin, heading right for the Srisalam Dam.
And the amount of water we're talking about here is just staggering. A record-breaking 20 lakh cusecs. So, what's a cusec? It's 1 cubic foot per second. To give you an idea, imagine 20 lakh basketballs worth of water flowing past you every single second. This was the highest inflow in the dam's entire history. It was an unimaginable threat to everyone downstream.
And the human cost became obvious almost immediately. Authorities estimated that 40,000 people, 40,000 were trapped, forced onto the rooftops of their flooded homes with literally nowhere else to go.
And look, this devastation wasn't just limited to the city itself. Across the wider district, 60 villages were completely inundated by the floodwaters. I mean, many of them were just gone, totally submerged.
By noon, the water was already up to the first floor of buildings. The reports from that time describe these heart-rending scenes of people just frantically, desperately screaming for help, trying to get rescued. They were trapped by the rising water in a nightmare they could have never imagined. Well, as you can imagine, the sheer scale of this disaster completely overwhelmed the local authorities. I mean, there just weren't enough boats, not enough people to handle a crisis this big. They had no choice. They were forced to ask for outside help. And that help? It came in a major way. The government called in the Army and the Navy. The Indian Air Force sent in helicopters for these incredibly daring aerial rescues. Specialized disaster response forces were brought in from Arkanam, and they brought more aircraft, more boats, the whole shebang. This was now a massive, coordinated rescue effort.
I mean, the rescue effort was just immense. A transport aircraft was brought in. They had 30 inflatable boats, 30 fiberglass boats, and right away, 30 relief camps were opened up to shelter the thousands of people who'd lost their homes. And get this, in one absolutely heroic mission, a single helicopter rescued 15 farmers who'd been trapped by a swollen stream. Just incredible. So, think about this for a second. This really captures the impossible choice people had to make. In the frantic rush to just save their own lives, they had to leave everything else behind. Their houses, their land, their cattle, their valuables, everything that made up their life was just abandoned to the flood.
And when the waters finally went down and people could return, what they found was just grief-striking. Their paddy fields, which had been ready for harvest, were completely ruined, and their cattle, such a vital part of their livelihood, had been lost, trapped in their sheds with no way to escape.
So as relief teams started to reach the worst-hit areas, they walked into a massive humanitarian crisis. We're talking about thousands of survivors who had lost absolutely everything. They were in desperate need of the most basic things to survive: food and clean drinking water.
Sometimes the big numbers are hard to wrap your head around, so let's focus on just one story to really understand the impact. It's the story of a widow, a mom to 4 kids. She stood there and watched as the floodwaters rushed into her small mud shack, and she saw the whole thing just collapse right in front of her.
She and her children managed to escape to a roadside. It was the only piece of ground that was still above the water. And for 2 days, they were stranded there. No food, no water. In her own words, they capture that complete helplessness. She said she had to watch her young children suffer, and she just didn't know what to do.
But then, a relief team found her and her family. At a government camp, she got essential supplies like rice and blankets. But here's the amazing part. Private donors heard about her family's situation and were so moved that they brought more food, pots, pans, and they even built a temporary shed for them to live in.
And after all that, after losing everything, her response was just one of immense gratitude. The reports say she had this beaming face as she thanked the people who helped her. It's just such a powerful testament to what compassion can do in a moment of absolute despair.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. The story of Kurnool, it's one of unimaginable devastation, but it's also such a powerful story about survival and about people helping people. And it kind of makes you ask, right? When everything, and I mean everything, is lost, what does help truly mean? What is the real value of a helping hand? What does it actually mean to not just survive, but to be given a real reason to hope again?